At 2:15 a.m. on August 14, 2025, the Pacific off Oregon erupted. 30 Iranian amphibious ships stuffed with tanks, APCs, and naval infantry slid through black swells toward a small American town. Their mission: land, seize, and fortify U.S. soil. They believed the coast was undefended. They were wrong. From 65,000 feet, a stealth drone tracked every hull. Beneath the waves, a Virginia-class submarine listened in silence. Onshore, coastal batteries waited. High above, swarms of MQ-25 Stingrays circled, armed and unseen. The noose was ready. At 2:42 a.m., the sky split open. 160 precision bombs dropped in under 5 seconds. 10 Iranian ships vanished in fireballs, their tanks and ammunition cooking off in violent chains. Steel fragments rained across the sea. Shockwaves hurled soldiers into the dark water. Seconds later, a second wave tore into the rear of the column. More hulls ripped apart. Fuel tanks ignited. Towers of fire clawed 200 feet into the night. The invasion line collapsed, broken in less than a minute. Iran had aimed to invade America in silence. Instead, they sailed straight into a kill box. Their assault, forced tens of thousands of tons of steel and ambition, was already burning and sinking before the first boots could touch the beach. Remember, what you are hearing is a simulated scenario crafted for storytelling and learning, not as an official account of real events. By the way, if you were in command, would you strike now or wait for the perfect kill zone? Iran believed the night belonged to them. The invasion fleet advanced under strict emission control, every radar switched off, every radio message encrypted with 256-bit military coding. Their formation was arranged to imitate scattered cargo traffic, a disguise meant to slip past satellites and coastal watchers. To Tehran, the plan looked flawless, a hidden blade aimed straight at America's ribs. 30 specialized amphibious assault ships carried a payload designed to overwhelm any coastal town in Oregon. Each vessel loaded 4 55-ton main battle tanks, 2 armored personnel carriers, and a strike team of 17 elite naval infantry. Together, the flotilla formed a spearhead of overwhelming force: 120 tanks, 60 APCs, 500 heavily armed Marines, and more than 6,000 tons of armored steel rushing toward U.S. shores. The arsenal on board was staggering: over 250,000 rounds of ammunition, 600 anti-tank missiles, and enough explosives to flatten a town in under an hour. The target was a fishing settlement of fewer than 3,800 residents, defended by a single aging radar post covering just 300 meters of shoreline. To Iranian commanders, it was the weakest point in America's coastal shield. The orders were simple: land quickly, seize the town, and turn it into a fortified forward base for future operations deeper inside U.S. territory. On the bridges of the lead ships, officers bent over charts and timetables, convinced that surprise was on their side. They believed America was blind, distracted, asleep, but they were wrong. 65,000 feet above, a stealth American UAV had already mapped every hull and every heat trace. Beneath the waves, a Virginia-class attack submarine shadowed their screws. On the coastline, Harpoon missile batteries quietly marked their lanes. What Iran thought was invisibility was, in truth, exposure. Every move tracked, every vector plotted. The flotilla was not closing in on a defenseless town. It was sailing straight into a kill box drawn long before their ships ever left port. From the moment the stealth UAV locked its sensors on the Iranian flotilla, the United States was no longer reacting. It was orchestrating. Every 5 seconds, a stream of encrypted data poured into Naval Command at Pearl Harbor. Hull positions, engine signatures, even the heat trace of individual soldiers clustered on deck. Within 90 seconds, the alerts had jumped the network, flashing red across 14 digital screens at Pacific Fleet headquarters in San Diego. The name of the protocol appeared in bold: Operation Black Tide. Its purpose was clear: wipe out any amphibious invasion force in minutes. The strategy was cold, precise, and rehearsed. Do not fire yet. Let them advance deeper, into the invisible lines already drawn across the ocean. The coordinates marked out a lethal corridor 22 nautical miles wide and 35 nautical miles long. This was the kill box. Inside it, every weapon system could overlap and concentrate fire, leaving no gap, no chance of survival. 3 strike components slid into readiness. High overhead, 80 MQ-25 Stingray UAVs tightened their orbit at 40,000 feet, each armed with twin 500-pound precision bombs. Beneath the waves, USS North Dakota, a Virginia-class attack submarine, maneuvered to intercept at 820 feet depth, silent at 25 knots, its tubes loaded with 38 heavyweight torpedoes and 12 Tomahawk Block 5 cruise missiles. Onshore, 2 coastal missile batteries primed 24 RGM-84 Harpoons, each a 15-foot steel spear with a 488-pound warhead. In the operations center, commanders watched the Iranian speed hold steady at 14 knots. At that pace, the enemy would enter the kill box in 27 minutes. No one raised a voice. No one rushed. They had built this trap months earlier, drilling every sequence, calibrating every weapon. Now, they simply waited. Iran's captains believed they were invisible, their radars showing only empty ocean. They had no idea 80 drones hovered above, that a submarine stalked less than 12 miles off their stern, or that missile crews on the Oregon coast already had firing solutions locked. The noose was tightening. The countdown was not in hours, not even in minutes, it was in seconds. And when the first strike came, it would fall with the weight of 100 tons of explosives in the opening minute alone. At 2:42 a.m., the Iranian flotilla crossed the invisible boundary of the American kill box. The trap that had been waiting for hours now snapped shut. A burst of encrypted commands leapt from U.S. Naval Command to 80 MQ-25 Stingray drones circling silently at 40,000 feet. In the dark sky, dozens of bomb bays opened at once. The first wave fell like judgment. 160 GBU 53/B small diameter bomb 2 streaked downward at Mach 1.5, each carrying 250 pounds of armor-piercing explosives. In less than 5 seconds, 10 Iranian assault ships were ripped apart. Fireballs shot 200 feet into the night. Tanks stored below deck detonated in chain reactions, spewing 24 tons of steel fragments across the waves. Ammunition cooked off in rapid bursts, echoing like thunderclaps rolling through the column. Marines were hurled overboard, swallowed by black water lit only by burning wrecks. Panic spread instantly. Iranian captains barked orders to tighten formation, but the line had already fractured. Some ships veered starboard, others port, breaking, spacing, and colliding with one another in the smoke. Radar crews shouted false contacts. Their screens were snowed with jamming from escorting drones. Anti-air gunners opened fire wildly, tracers lashing the sky, and for a moment, one lucky burst clipped a Stingray. The drone spun into the sea in a spiral of fire, the single American loss of the battle. But the others pressed on, undeterred. The second wave arrived 20 seconds later. Another 160 bombs plunged into the center and rear of the column. APCs were hurled like toys into the waves. One ship's entire superstructure collapsed, folding onto its deck before slipping beneath the surface. Another was gutted stem to stern, flames racing along fuel lines until the hull exploded in a rolling shockwave. From beneath the swells, USS North Dakota struck. 4 Mark 48 heavyweight torpedoes slid silently from her tubes, accelerated to 55 knots, and homed in under the keels of vessels attempting to turn and flee. Each detonation sent shockwaves of over 500 psi ripping upward. Hulls snapped in half like matchsticks. 2 ships plunged to the seabed in under 90 seconds. Another rolled belly up, spilling its crew and armor into the sea. Iran's fleet was dissolving. Communications, once encrypted and disciplined, broke into chaos. Overlapping distress calls. Desperate reports of fire. Sinking. Drowning. Some captains tried to beach their ships on sandbars, only to be obliterated by drone strikes seconds later. Ammunition holds erupted in chain detonations. Columns of flame and black smoke towered into the night, visible for miles along the Oregon coast. By 2:44 a.m., barely 2 minutes after the first strike, 14 Iranian ships were either sinking, burning, or shattered beyond repair. Over 180 Marines were confirmed dead in the opening salvo, with dozens more wounded or trapped in lower decks. What Tehran had believed to be the perfect surprise had unraveled in fire and steel. The kill box was doing its work. And it was only the beginning. At 2:45 a.m., the remnants of Iran's invasion force broke discipline and turned south in a desperate bid to escape the kill box. Smoke trailed from shattered decks, radios shrieked overlapping distress calls, and engines roared at maximum thrust. What had been an organized column minutes earlier was now a ragged knot of burning hulls, churning, foaming wakes. But there was no way out. Hidden along the Oregon shoreline, 2 American coastal batteries received the order they had been waiting for. Fire all tubes. Within 6 seconds, 24 RGM-84 Harpoon Block 2+ missiles screamed from their launch canisters. 15 feet long, skimming just yards above the sea, each missile carried a 488-pound warhead. Guided by GPS and active radar homing, they streaked low and fast, weaving over whitecaps toward fleeing silhouettes. The first salvo hit 3 ships almost simultaneously. One vessel detonated when its forward ammunition hold-packed with 20,000 rounds erupted in a blinding flash. Another harpoon plowed into the engine room of a tank carrier, igniting 10,000 gallons of diesel fuel. Flames rolled skyward, painting the horizon orange. A third ship took a direct hit amidships, broke its keel, and folded into the sea in 2 jagged halves. From beneath, USS North Dakota added to the slaughter. Its fire control system, linked to the drone network above, launched 2 Tomahawk Block 5 cruise missiles toward ships attempting to hide behind smoke. Flying at barely 100 feet above the waves, each Tomahawk carried a 1,000-pound penetrating warhead. The missiles struck in quick succession, one ship blown apart in a fireball, the other capsized and swallowed within minutes. Overhead, the surviving MQ-25 Stingrays shifted tactics. Switching from bombs to Hellfire missiles, they hunted lifeboats and smaller assault craft, scrambling to ferry troops ashore. The AGM-114 Romeo's shaped charge warheads punched into thin hulls, turning evacuation attempts into fireballs scattered across the surf. Iranian Marines who had hoped for rescue now found only black water and burning debris. By 2:48 a.m., the kill box was nearly silent except for the crackle of flames and the hiss of sinking metal. 26 Iranian ships had been destroyed outright. The last 4, crippled and aflame, drifted aimlessly before slipping under. Hundreds of tons of armor and ammunition went with them, sinking into the cold Pacific. In less than 6 minutes, an invasion fleet that had carried 30 warships, 120 tanks, 60 APCs, and 500 elite Marines was gone, erased by layers of American firepower. What remained was oil, wreckage, and silence. By 3:10 a.m., the battle was finished. The Pacific Ocean west of Oregon was littered with twisted steel, oil slicks stretching for miles, and the glow of burning wreckage. What had begun as Iran's boldest military gamble in decades ended in catastrophe. In under 1 hour, their entire invasion fleet was annihilated. The numbers told the story with brutal clarity. 30 amphibious assault ships destroyed or sunk, 120 main battle tanks and 60 armored personnel carriers sent to the ocean floor. More than 6,000 tons of armored steel and hundreds of tons of munitions lost forever. Over 800 Iranian troops killed or wounded, another 200 pulled from the freezing water as prisoners, among them 3 senior officers carrying encrypted tablets filled with invasion plans. The United States suffered no combat fatalities, only 2 sailors injured during recovery operations. The kill ratio was absolute. Within 36 hours, cyber teams cracked the captured tablets, exposing additional planned landings that were neutralized before they began. Pentagon-released satellite imagery showed oil slicks 5 nautical miles wide and debris fields covering 40 square miles, a portrait of complete annihilation. International media compared it to Midway, to the Falklands, calling it the most decisive amphibious interception in modern history. In Tehran, leaders scrambled for explanations. How could an entire task force vanish in minutes? Analysts worldwide drew the same conclusion. America's surveillance reach and precision strike capability had extended far beyond expectation. Nations with similar ambitions quietly reviewed their own plans, reconsidering the risks of coastal assaults. For the United States, the message was deliberate. Any hostile force approaching its shores would be met not with hesitation, but with overwhelming layered firepower drones, submarines, missiles, aircraft, and human judgment fused into one decisive blow. And yet, behind the statistics and firepower lay the human truth. Pilots, sailors, and operators who tracked the enemy hour after hour. Commanders who chose patience over impulse, waiting until the trap was perfect. The silence that followed was not peace. It was deterrence forged in discipline and precision. Remember, what you are hearing is a simulated scenario crafted for storytelling and learning, not as an official account of real events. If you believe these stories should be told, remembered, and debated, share your thoughts in the comments below. Would America's kill box remain the ultimate shield, or was this just the beginning of an even deadlier era of warfare?